Los Angeles, 2023. It's been 1 year since I left the Navy. I didn't see any combat, but I know the enemy is getting stronger while I'm getting weaker. It's funny, when I was on the island, the only thing I could think of was getting off. And now that I'm off, the only thing I can think of is going back.
Baby, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, baby, they're totally gonna get that it was an Apocalypse Now reference. I'll never forget the day I took off my guacamole camouflaged uniform, put it in the back of my truck, and sped off from Little Creek, Virginia, with my now fiance, and made the trip all the way back to California. I'd left the Navy, and the thoughts, worries, and emotions were all intense as I sped away. Whether it's something you've been counting down the days for or something you've dreaded, you have to leave the military at some point. I remember I was actually going to do more than one enlistment, but when I realized that I wanted to do more than what they were going to give me, I realized that I had to leave. And 2 years before the end of my first enlistment was up, I spent with my command and we came up with a plan of how I was going to conquer the civilian world. And even though I left confident in my abilities and what I've gotten from my experiences in the Navy, leaving the military and going into a world without no sense of purpose or brotherhood or fraternity or mission, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And honestly, I struggled during my first year of civilian life. I can't bullshit you. When you leave the tribal and masculine world of the military and go into the society of America that everyone lives in now, it's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks, and it's gonna suck. But these pieces of wisdom I'm going to give to you now are gonna make the life you live after getting your DD-214 a little bit easier. Step 1. Prepare to Exfil. I think the perfect time to prepare to leave is about 18 months before the end of your contract date. Now, by no means am I saying put your foot off the gas and coast during your time in the military. God knows during my last year working in pharmacy, I fucking put my heart and soul into filling every single one of those pill bottles and addressing every customer with respect. I hated it, but I still did it. But after work, I would come back and work on my bachelor's degree every single day. Because I had a plan, admittedly, very loosely, of what I wanted to do when I got out. Another thing you should do is save up your money. Gents, please, save those weekends at Chi-Chi's and start investing a few $1,000s into your savings. This will give you some breathing room as you figure out what to do for your next job. The next job thing is critical when you're planning. Most vets do the civilian equivalent of whatever they were doing in the military world. Take it, if you're motor T, you're probably going to be a truck driver. If you're infantry, you're probably going to be a cop, and so on and so forth. Those things are easy. Hiring managers love veterans, especially because you have so much experience under your belt. However, if you're like me and you didn't want to do the same thing that you did in the military, I suggest researching what's out there and what you want to do and how you want to get there. Personally, during my first year, the reason why I struggled is because I jumped between a lot of different things that I wanted to do until I ended up giving this entrepreneurship a shot. Lesson number 2, understand that it's going to be hard to transition. Whether you've planned everything down to a T or you're throwing caution into the wind, which I don't recommend doing, you have to understand that adjusting to the normal world is difficult. Generally speaking, the more you love the military, the harder the transition is going to be. But you also got to know that it's going to be okay. Just recognizing that there's going to be an adjustment period and that you're going to have to struggle a little bit is okay, because you first have to recognize an obstacle before you conquer it. And once you understand that there's a journey to this transition, but no matter what, you're going to conquer this mission, then you can go to the next steps. Lesson 3, bring positive military habits to the table. I cannot emphasize the word positive enough. Marines especially. Getting 4 hours of sleep is not adequate, and having a monster and some tornadoes is not an adequate meal. You're also going to realize sooner or later that binge drinking every night and then going to work in the morning is not going to work anymore. When I say positive things, I mean things like exercise. Now, you don't have a skinny college grad who used to be a cross-country runner doing your PT anymore, but you still need to emphasize that physical training is still important in your life, even when you take the uniform off. Trust me, EAS gut is a thing. I've been a victim of it and I'm now recovering from it. I can go into detail about how great physical fitness is, but there's plenty of other YouTube channels that can do that for me. The other habits that you may not recognize is the fact that you have a higher sense of professionalism than most civilians. Just addressing other people with respect, standing up straight, dressing well, and having confidence in your abilities as both an individual and a teammate puts you leagues ahead of any civilians in modern day society. When you cultivated your higher sense of self after basic training or wherever it was during your time in the military, when you put that out there into the real world, it's going to pay dividends for you. Lesson number 4, use the benefits you have to get ahead in life. When I talk about benefits, I'm talking about the GI Bill, home loans from the VA. You can even own franchise stores at a discounted price. It might not seem like it, but this country still loves people who serve their nation. Yes, the VA hospital is its own beast right now, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding that. A lot of people have had problems with that. But moving away from that, the military has a gaggle of stuff you guys can use to be successful out in the real world. Talk to someone in your command about things like the credentialing opportunities, something called MAPS or DoD Skill Bridge. Personally, I dedicated that time to getting my TA and getting my bachelor's degree when I was in the Navy, so I didn't have to use my GI Bill when I got out, and I can use that for whatever I want. I still haven't figured out what I want, but that'll come with time. And if you want me to explain how I got my college degree while in the Navy for one enlistment, I can talk to you about that in another video. But probably my best advice is to probably pay attention to those transition classes that you have to get when you leave the military. I know a lot of it seems like boring work that you just want to get through. Trust me, I was the same way. But when I took that entrepreneur class, I kind of decided like this is something that I would really like to do. And I took that information and now I own an LLC with a few other businesses attached, and I'm trying to make a living out of that. My last and obviously my most important piece of information is build a network and understand that you're not alone. Understand if you're trying to make it into the civilian world all by yourself without any help, you're dead in the water. Take it from somebody that hates receiving help from other people. Even I had to get some assistance when I moved back to California. And that came from people like my family, my now fiance, and my fiance's family. The opportunities that they gave me made it possible for me to get the most out of life. And hopefully I can return the favor when the time comes. I'd also like to add that making friends with other veterans that have been through the same stuff as you helps exponentially. Like it or not, unless you're a Navy SEAL, no civilian gives a shit about what you did in the military. And there are going to be times a lot when civilians are not going to relate to you and you're not going to relate to them. They're going to have their own problems and you're going to have your own. And I'm not saying get on your high horse as being the veteran and being better than everybody. God no, I have civilian friends, but I recognize I'm not going to talk to them about my time in Okinawa. But what I am saying is get with people who still are going to make you feel like you're part of that brotherhood, even when you take the uniform off. Now, I personally have 2 friends that I spent 3 years in Okinawa with, and I still talk to them, I still get together with them. Unfortunately, one had to go to Miami, but we still keep in contact the best we can. And I cannot stress this enough, you need to understand that you're not alone. Veteran suicide is a thing. I lost 3 Marines that were in my unit in 1 year. 2 of them were due to suicide. It hits hard for a lot of people to hear, but veteran and military suicide is real and it is a crisis. And I believe that veterans, especially men, feel better when they're in a sense of a tribe or in a sense of brotherhood rather than talking about their feelings. And trust me, I get it. If you don't want to talk about your feelings, God knows that I don't, and it irritates my fiance. But having a sense of brotherhood and cultivating that sense of brotherhood because you realize that you're not alone will help exponentially in your transition into another world. Basically, when we were in the military, we relied on each other. But there should be no reason that when you take that uniform off, that you should change that way. Society has lost it, but we are a tribal people. We both need to rely on each other, both in uniform and out of it. Just having a sense of people that know where you've come from and what you've done, and having that sense of camaraderie, even out of the uniform, is going to keep you away from going into that abyss. Trust me, you're going to appreciate it when you have it. That's all I have for today. Thank you for listening. If you like this, please give this a like. If you want to see more of this stuff, please subscribe. This video is sponsored by me. If you want to be a veteran, you got to be in the military. And if you want to be in the military, you got to have a good ASVAB score. The link is down in the description. We have multiple options for you guys, and you guys will be taught by me to boost your scores so that you can become part of the next generation of Americans who are serving this country. I've already helped a few people boost their scores and get the jobs that they wanted, and trust me, it's going to help for you. That's all I have for today. For the love of all that is good and a God-given duty to protect it, I'll see you guys in the next one.